This absolutely gorgeous, massive lock in front of you is one of the biggest commercially available padlocks in the world, I believe. This is the Squire SS100CS. It has a, look at this, massive 20mm boron steel shackle. It is just ginormous, and you can get a staple or a hasp to fit within here as well, like that. I can't imagine how much cutting you'd have to do to get through that, even if you could access the top of the lock itself. It weighs 9.4 pounds, which is 4.3 kilograms or thereabouts. It's really, really heavy. It costs around, give or take, £300, around $400 at the time of filming. And it has, which is really cool, two keyways here, so, with keys which are keyed alike in this particular lock. I don't know whether that's by design or whether you can get them separate, I don't know. Now, is that for dual custody? Well, if I try to remove the shackle with just one key unlocked, it doesn't actually come out. So I suppose you could, but this lock on this side, the actuator essentially turns a big cylinder on the inside, which can expose a recess which will allow the ball bearing on that side to go into it. So it would be a little bit weaker, but maybe at a push you could use it as dual custody. I don't think it's meant like that though. It's meant so you have two keys to operate the two actuators in here, and I think it was done that way just because it was probably the simplest way to get a lock this big and have the actuators allow ball bearings that size to recess into them. I think it's probably a design thing rather than a trying to figure out, oh, let's move that around, about dual custody. And look at that, isn't that just beastly lock? So heavy. This was extremely kindly lent to me by my good friend Yukov, who's an admin over at the UK Locksport forum. And yeah, I'm so jealous of this beast. I would love to have this lock, but can't really afford a new one. And yeah, I'm just very grateful that I was lent it. Now, there's a couple of interesting things about this lock before we pick and gut it. Is that it's surprisingly, well, one thing is you can't turn both keys and pull them out at the same time. You need to turn one and then pull it out, and then turn the other and then pull it out, which is a bit of a fiddle. If they moved the cores just over a tiny bit, it would have probably made more sense. So yeah, a couple of things is, one, you could look at the key and go, ooh, I can see the bitting, therefore I know roughly how to pick the lock. So that looks like a zero lift, that one's like probably a max cut from here to here, from 5 to 6, so that's like a really deep set, so it's 3. No, you can't tell that from this lock, genuinely. It gives you a rough indication, but there is an anti-bump feature, which I'll have to show you later, in this lock, which means that the bitting only tells you probably about half the tail. It also oversets, the pins overset in this so easily, it's unbelievable, probably due to the bitting on the inside. It's crazy. So the way that I learnt this lock, and I couldn't just pick it straight off, I couldn't, is I went through the locks on each side, and I just marked where I felt the pins lift, and just put some little pen markings on there. You don't have to be very accurate, but it really helps you to just be able to get to a pin quickly by scooping underneath in the warding and then lifting back up. And I had to learn this lock over quite a reasonable amount of time, probably an hour of practice, maybe a bit longer. And I found that by going through, marking off where I felt the pins on the pick like this, and I think there's another one here, I've got some small, I mean, they're all basically rubbed off, but it's only an indication while you're learning. It helps you to map out where you have pins which easily overset, or where you need to use a slightly deeper hook rather than a shallow hook, so you don't overset a pin in front of it. Yeah, it's a bit of a process, this lock, just due to the fact that you can't, like I said, tell what you're picking from the bitting directly. and the fact that the pin's overset. So yeah, like a lot of locksmith tools, it's sometimes worth just having a few markings on there as a rough guide to where you might locate some of the pins, but it does take you a while to do that mapping anyway. So I suppose you could say that already this lock is shaping up to be quite a good lock. Anyway, let's get on to the picking. So without further ado, let's try and pick this. A bit of a challenging pick. Make sure my tension tool is in. Tension with the tip of my finger. Going to go in and try right at the back first. Little click there. Okay, that's good. Didn't feel anything on 5. Nothing on 4. Let's try 3. Little click on 3. I'm going to leave it there though. I wasn't 100% satisfied with that. So let's see if 4. Yeah, 4's a nice positive click. Maybe a tiny click on 2. Anything on 1? 1's definitely not binding. Let's try 3 again. Seems okay. Trying to get pin 6. I'm not 100% convinced that that's set, but we'll give it a shot. 3 definitely feels set. Let's try 4. Oh, 4's overset now, I think. Okay, that feels okay. Back to pin 5. Feels set. Pin, sorry, that's 3, sorry. That's okay. Let's try 3 again. Feels okay. That's 2. That's 1. Nothing's opened up just yet though. Go along and try some of these higher set pins. Not quite there. Let's try 4, 2. Not getting 1 yet. So back to 6. Release some of that tension. That feels all okay. So just trying to find out who isn't set in here. Okay, that was 2. That's good. Back in. Nope. 5 seems good. So that's 3. You keep saying 3 instead of 5. Okay. Might have to go back all the way to. Oh. Okay, and this is pin 1. Oh, and we've got an open. That did take some time, I have to say, but we have got an open, so let's move that all the way there. Right, let's now release the tension. Release the tension, the drawers and the vise for tension. And get that in here. Oh, right, let's try this side now. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah, it's hard with this silly flap on the front, but there you go. I haven't found a good way of getting past that, so bear with me. Let's try this. So the last one was binding at the back first, so well, there's a little click there. Nothing on 4, definitely nothing on 3. Okay, let's go in with a shorter hook, see if there's anything low lying. A little click, but I wasn't satisfied. Let's go all the way back to the back again. This one. Okay, that's a much better click on 6. Nothing at all on 3. So let's try 4. That's a little gritty, but good. Let's go back to the back and okay. Let's try the front now. That was 2 and 1. That's good. It's all good. Let's go to the back. Anything on? Nothing there. So it feels like it could be. Three? No. Might have dropped 4, which I did. Okay, let's try. Six. Nothing on 5, 4. That's 3. That's good. Still going back to 6 though. That's better. Into a full set. That's interesting. Okay, and don't know why you're in a full set. I don't think it's 6, so let's try one of the pins at the front. Could be pin 3. Let's try pin 3. Definitely in a full set, but I don't know which pin it is. So it's definitely holding us back up. I don't know which one it is. Probably 3, but I can't quite tell if it is. Everything feels sort of set. Oh, okay. I think I'll reset too many pins there. That's better. Got 3 there. Back to 6, and we got an open. Phew. Okay, so that was over 8 minutes to open that lock up, which I think is pretty good. And we can actually gut this, although this bit is a pain. And, I need to find somewhere to put this massive vise. But yeah, we can gut this. So we can take the shackle off to prove it's been picked. I think it's the bitting on this lock which causes the most problems, because it's not hugely difficult, you know, 4 minutes per side, but it isn't easy, and those pins love to overset like you would not believe. I think honestly that if this was in a hasp on a lock or on a chain and you had to support this by hand, or I know on the floor or something like that, and you had no idea what the bitting was like and no experience of it, where you couldn't spend, you know, I think that a lock like this with a bitting like this could really throw you, and certainly take you a lot longer to pick than most of the locks. Slide that bit out like that, and those are the two cores. And I've got two pinning trays. Oh, here we go. And I'll try and put those there. And which one do we go with first? Let's try this one. Oh, it's all unlocked, so I need to turn it back to locked, otherwise I'll just end up pushing the whole thing off. Oh. Try not to get the circlet to ping across the room. Get a key, pop that in. Try and get these as fast as I possibly can. Okay, so first off, before I gut it fully, let's just show what the pins are like. And you'll see that this is quite typical. Some of them don't actually rest. If I get this pick in here, some of them don't rest all the way down. There's actually a small lip on the inside, which you probably can't tell, but that is sort of a standard pin. If I show you one which goes all the way down like this, you'll see that they are thinned like that. You see they're slightly thinned, and a bit like you get in dimple locks actually. And the reason they do that is some of these pins, I think pin 6 and 1, 2, 3, they sit above the where you expect them to be, basically. So it's very strange way this. I think it's an anti-bump mechanism. So yeah, they don't go all the way down to the same height, so that if you put a bump key in it, the bump key wouldn't strike all the pins. Some of them just stay quite high up in the lock. And what you think is a zero lift, for example, you think that that's a zero lift cut there. It isn't at all. It actually does lift the pin quite high, so you can see that pin 5 there lifts up quite high. It's really strange. You can't really tell just by looking at the key how you need to pick the lock. So that, I think, is quite a big bonus too. It's unusual. You've also got lots of anti-drill bars in there as well. So yeah, worth exploring that one. So yeah, you'll see the thinning of some of these key pins as we go across. Like I said, it's an anti-bump feature. I don't know how effective it is, but it's probably quite effective. Okay, so they're all steel pins as well, which give a different style of feedback. I find them a little more, I don't know, slippy in the lock. It's hard to describe, but I find steel pins generally harder to pick. I don't know whether that's just psychological. Might have got some of those standard pins there wrong way around, but there you go. There we go. Right, so that's one side. Next side. Oh, see, I did that thing where I forgot to turn the callback is picked. So yeah, it's a bit silly. Did almost get the circlip off though, so that's a bonus. Right, there we go. It didn't ping across the room. Another big bonus. And this is going to be pretty much the same, but I need to demonstrate that all the pins are in here, of course. Yeah, it's a bit like picking a 12-pin lock. Then do the whole thing in one go. And there are the pins again. So yeah, standard. I imagine that the pinning is exactly the same. Standard spool. Yeah, spool. What's next? Probably another spool. Oh no, standard. So that went standard spool spool. That one's standard spool standard. I'm sure that makes a big difference, but there you go. Then spool. Interesting. Oh, and then 2 standard pins there. Yeah, cool. Oh, and here's some springs. And the springs are steel as well, so they're a little bit firmer than brass springs. So there you go, that's all gutted. Let's have a look at, it doesn't matter which one we look at really, does it? All the pins are the same. I love these super deep spools. They don't come into play quite as much as you'd think. Maybe that's to do with the bitting. Just turn that one around, and you can see hopefully the thinning of this one and this one and this one, which is kind of cool, and this one. So these 2 pins are the anti-bump pins. They'll hang at the top of the lock, and the longer pins here will just hang below the others. So yeah, like I said, you can't tell by the key quite what how it's going to pick. You wouldn't guess that you need to maybe lift one that you didn't need to lift and not lift one you did need to lift, and all those kind of things. It's an interesting lock. It's that's kind of cool. Is there anything in the chambers? No, these are just like brass. So yeah, let's put that in and pretend that it's all back together. There we go. Isn't that an amazing Squire SS100CS? A real beast of a lock. And thank you once again to my excellent friend Yukov for being so generous as to lend me this. It truly is a beast, and I doubt I'll ever own one myself. I'm super jealous of this one. It's absolutely gorgeous. I hope you like it too. I have to say that I would definitely use a lock like this. I mean, look at this plate where the lock, the barrels are housed in. You've got to bear in mind there's 2 of these. Even for you to try and pull the cores, this is going to shield it, and it's bolted in really strongly and deeply by screws. The shackle is 2mm boron carbon closed shackle. There isn't I mean, picking's going to be an attack, but you know, it's anti-bump features, and it's got some anti-drill. I mean, I'd definitely use this lock. I really would. I think it's a solid lock and not an easy pick, with a good bitting. I hasten to add. I think with a bitting less extreme than this, it would probably be a bit easier. But even then, even if it was less extreme bitting, you've got to bear in mind that this, how are you going to, you know, you can't hold this in hand, at least not for very long. It's extremely hard to handle this lock, especially if it's chained up or it's on a hasp of some kind. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I wouldn't like to attempt it out in the wild, that's for sure. Anyway, let me know what you think of this amazing lock, and drop me a comment. I'll read them all, reply to as many as I can, of course. If you haven't subscribed and like content like this, please do subscribe, and of course I'll see you all next time.